Harinam Sankirtan ki.
This is Londonishvaras. Hello everybody.
This is
Hare Krishna.
40th anniversary holy pilgrimage, Prabhupada pilgrimage. We're going to Conway Hall. When was the time Prabhupada was in Conway Hall? How many years ago? 40 years ago. We're going to see. After 40 years, see what's happening. Well, we're meeting Gurudas and Shamasundar here at the Conway Hall, where Prabhupada gave lectures about 40 years ago. So Gurudas and Shamasundar are not here yet, so we're wondering what to do. So we thought if we stay here right outside, we might fry them out. They said we can go inside and have a look, so we better be on our best behavior. That's the idea. So we may go and have a look.
I'm not sure you know what that is. Best behavior.
I'm saying that this isn't the real Conway Hall. There's another one. It's creating a heresy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, the whole London Yatra was a way for Prabhupada to please his spiritual master. Because in 1940s, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati sent the three big sannyasis, Ban Maharaj was one, to come to London to establish Krishna consciousness for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And they soon had to leave, and they met a woman who was a devotee, but basically they went back to Mayapur, Vrindavan, and just planted a seed. But not very much had happened. So Srila Prabhupada wanted, first and foremost, to come to London to please his spiritual master and see what we could do here. Now, when the sannyasis came to London, they did have a program or two at Conway Hall. So it was already a tirth, a spiritual place, and so we thought it would be nice for Prabhupada to have some programs here. So Prabhupada liked the idea very much. So we approached the people and said, may we have some programs here? And they said yes, and we rented the hall for, I think, 7 days. And Prabhupada asked me to make some titles of what, he said, what should I speak about? What should I speak about? But you know, he did that sometimes to me. He would write a tremendous letter to someone, and then he said, "Is it all right?" Of course, it's all right. So I made some titles. One was "What's the Meaning of Life?" Uh, the the Vedic literature. Who am I? It may be in the Lilamrita. Does anybody know some of the other titles?
Peace formula.
Peace formula. Like that. All things Prabhupada loved to talk about. And so we came here, and Prabhupada settled in. We put the Hare Krishna sign up, and people came every day. And as we went on, more and more and more people came. Somehow or other, they heard by word of mouth that this is very good. And the Swamiji's coming, and there's great singing there. We had fantastic kirtans. And Saraswati would go in the audience and get everybody to chant. Little Saraswati. And there's some photos that I took. The masthead for Back to Godhead, Prabhupada, was taken here, was rendered here. I don't like to say taken because we're devotees. So I say the photo was rendered here. And Prabhupada also liked it. As each day progressed, he liked it more and more. More and more people came. The kirtans were ecstatic. It filled the place. And I remember we were living on John Lennon's estate, and John Lennon's driver came in one night. And he, after the program, we were going back to John Lennon's estate, and he said, "You wowed them tonight, didn't you, Swamiji?" And so he did. He wowed them tonight, and it was one of the glorious times in establishing the seeds of the London Yatra. More and more people did get to know us after this program, and I believe the introduction to the Ishopanishad is one of these talks. Yes.
That's a great
Yes. So, are there any questions?
What year was this, please? 69?
Yeah, 69. Yeah.
After the installation, after the deities were installed? You were in
No.
You were in John Lennon's?
No, it was still John Lennon's estate.
Yeah.
And also, Shamashinda did, the Jagannath was carved before Londonishvara at 22 Betterson Street, because on our on the cover of our recording, the Hare Krishna Mantra single, we're sitting there, and Lord Jagannath is there. So he was carving it as well.
There was a Rath Yatra, I think, in 69 of that year also, before the meetings were installed.
Yes, there's a Rath Yatra, and
Backtrack, huh?
well, the first year, and I think Sam Mashinda's going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about it, but the first year we were not living together. And I was in Clapham Commons, or Brixton. I was in Brixton for a while. Yeah. I didn't mind because I lived in Harlem in the United States, and Harlem makes Brixton look like nothing. So. But yeah, Jamuna and I lived in Brixton, and so Malati and Samashinda lived in Balam. Oh, you like it? Yay, Balams. Oh, that's why. Very smart. Well, we could change all the names. And this, Lamb's Conduit Passage, is on the way to Lamb's Conduit Street, where we did our visas. So if anybody needs to visa, you can just go right down there. So the thing is, and Shamashin is going to tell this, that the first year of the Rath Yatra, we had to push the cart from Balam to Marble Arch by hand, me and Mukunda. And Samashunda said there were hills and he could see the steam coming out of our mouth and it was rising over the cart. So that's the kind of devotional service you can do. Push a cart from Balam to Maharaj, Mukunda Maharaj, you know. And the next year, well, we're going to get into that, but since we're being filmed, we'll do it again, was when Nari Narayan was here, and Gunanava says, he said, Nari Narayan, please pass the hammer, and go like that. And you were there. We were telling the story this morning. So they all thought we were Mukunda, Mr. Grant, because we look alike. So I was Mr. Grant, Samashunda was Mr. Grant, and Mukunda was Mr. Grant. So the car was there, and it was huge. Samashunda is very grandiose in his building things. I don't know if you know that the altar fell down in the very place. So sometimes he embellishes, and it's heavy. So they said, Mr. Grant, this won't do. This cart is too cumbersome. So Narayan says, in the English spirit, why not give it a sporting chance? So the police got into it. They set out this really hard route. It was practically 90 degrees.
King's Cross Station is a big car park. That's where we were building it.
Right,
And
right.
we made a whole route.
Yeah.
Impossible, actually.
Yeah, an impossible route. And
It was a
also,
question of steering. They were worried about the steering. And it was impossible to get around this route.
and was it the police that pushed or the police that steered?
Everyone helped.
Yeah. So they took part in their own test. And so it made it. So they said, quite. But they weren't quite sure. So Nari Narayan says, well, I'm going to give them some Krishna consciousness. So he goes right into this. Oh yeah, I didn't say this morning. Nari Narayan's description of the official was like a Pekingese with a nose made for punching. The official looked like a Pekingese with a nose made for punching. He had a bowler hat on. So Narayan goes up to the official and he says, in the official's ear, Tavakara Kamala Bodhi. And so Narayan's thinking, oh, Lord.Siva is entering his heart. But people were there saw that the official was shaking. You know, he was scared. What is this madman doing? So the official was sort of like, here, kid, here's a quarter, go to the movies. Just let's get this finished. So he said, okay, you can do it. So then Narayan jumps off the cart and said, isn't God great? And so that was the Rath Yatra that happened there. So these were the early days of London, but this was one of the linchpins, and Prabhupada loved it. He loved having a chance to speak for 7 days on topics that he liked. I think he might have changed one of the titles, but he liked these. Basically, he liked the titles that I put together. So now, yes?
Theatre filled to capacity, and what kind of people came? And did Prabhupada have his Bhagavatams available?
It was a very nice cross-section of people, a demographic of old and young. It was not at first filled to capacity, but the last days filled every night. And I don't remember if the Bhagavatams were available.
You were advertising it in the shops or in the posters? Or?
Yeah, posters and give them out.
Members of Parliament invited.
Sure. Yeah, we were pretty much interacting with all parts of society. So the Indian community liked us. The underground didn't require handbills. You just passed the word. And then we also we had an ambassador friend and So we invited all our friends. And yes,
What sort of prasadam was it?
Krishna Prasada. You know, it's 40 years ago. And, well, we had so now, whenever the questions are finished, we can very quietly go inside. They're rehearsing in the hall, so we can't go in the hall. But we can take a look inside the building and take a little tour and then go out. And no photographs, right? What is it with photographs in England?
You have to ask for permission in advance and then they will let us do it.
You have to get permission in advance.
Same thing with Royal Albert Hall. No photographs, but I did it. You know, Raven at Albert Hall. But, I mean, people could be smashing guitars and they don't mind, but you take a photograph. Oh, we have to close it down.
Should we come to one of these Conway programs before he became a devotee?
I don't think so. He just came to the temple and like within an afternoon he joined. No, he was the flower, the darling, like they say. Such effulgence and enthusiasm. Prabhupada said enthusiasm is the backbone of Krishna consciousness. So that's how he just made our path so much better because of his enthusiasm. He's like Jayananda, willing to do anything. He's just so much full of energy all the time. Great Sankirtan. So
no filming.
what?
Final word to our viewers online?
If you have it on, I
We're
don't
actually
mind.
live right now. Oh, should we bring it in?
Yeah.
It's not a photo. It's actually not a photo.
This is cinema.
This is cinema. Okay.
Just pretend it's not on.
Authorized.
Again, I say sometimes it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Okay. That's
So-
always yeah. Okay.
It's not even on, you can tell.
Okay, viewers, if you're viewing, I don't know if you'll get a good connection inside. So if it cuts out, well, sorry.